If we're going to eliminate the waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicare, it does mean we're going to cut some of that out. And when I hear my friend Dave Camp say, you cannot cut money out of Medicare, well, we don't want to cut the good stuff that you point out. 1/3 of Medicare doesn't go to patient care. You can't just get up there and say, we don't want to cut anything out of Medicare. We want to cut the bad stuff and keep the good stuff. If we're going...
Sounding a lot like Elon Musk. Good morning. What happened there, Chucky boy? Welcome to the Wake Up America show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. Today is Wednesday, the 12th of March. Stephanie's birthday approacheth. And when I say approacheth, I mean not today or not yesterday. People were confused. Maybe I wasn't clear when I said the Ides of March. Stephanie's birthday, the 15th, remember? Julius Caesar stabbed in the back, et tu, Brute? No, none of that? Glad to have you here. Good morning, Pineapples. Thankful to have all of our friends joining us live this morning, like Quest Fanning, Dad Bod Baboon. Quest, can't wait to see you in D.C. Grizz Cheese hanging out last night, joining us again this morning. He's just like me. Bruce Birtwhistle from Canada. Oh, Canada's very sorry, eh? About those tariffs that they retaliated. How dare you retaliate against our tariffs and we're retaliating against you? Who started it? Mom, Canada started it. Talk about the tariff roller coaster and your grocery bills next drop. Cecilia here as well. Can't wait to see you in D.C. Drew Van Runkle. He was shopping for some weed, he said. But then he realized it was freedom o'clock. Yes, it is. Rise and freedom. Good morning. Buckle up. Your wallet's about to take a wild ride. No end to rising food costs, and now Trump's tariffs on Canada and Mexico are tossing lighter fluid on the fire. EatingWell.com pegs Canada and Mexico as our top two food suppliers. Think beef from Canada, avocados from Mexico, and prices are about to climb like a coaster hitting the peak. We're talking seafood, cereals, legumes, Lego my Legos, and my Lego my legumes. Maple syrup from up north, tomatoes, peppers, berries, OJ, and sugar from down south. The Department of Agriculture says over half our fresh red meat is Canadian. Didn't realize that. $11 billion in Mexican fruit last year alone. Supply chains could get snarled. Demand is not budging, and your grocery run's getting pricier by the minute. Some are saying stock up now, COVID style. Minus the toilet paper panic. Experts in the piece say, grab bulk meat and seafood, freeze it airtight for 3 to 6 months. Nuts in the freezer for a year. Canned beans in the pantry for up to 5. Fruits and veggies go frozen. They're flash frozen fresh. So conservatives, is this just Trump sticking it to bad trade deals, right? Or just sticking us with the bill, right? Libertarians, I know you're mad. The government's meddling is now hitting your dinner plate. Call in or text into the show, 573-319-1586. Should we hoard the guac or ride this coaster out? Let me know. Let them eat cake. Let them eat cake. Number one, Congress dodges a shutdown. 5 things you should know today. They cut spending. Is it a big win for Trump or a half measure? Big news out of D.C. yesterday is that House Speaker Mike Johnson rammed through a funding bill to keep the government humming past the Friday deadline. So the thing slashes $13 billion from domestic programs, right? Great. But it increased defense spending, so overall, not really a cut. Thomas Massie says no and doesn't go for it. And frankly, it's such a complicated measure. I think even Trump doesn't necessarily understand the congressional process, because when I was watching Thomas Massie's video yesterday talking about the CR, one of the big criticisms that has been leveled at Thomas Massie in recent weeks for his non-committal to support the most recent continuing resolution to end the possibility of a shutdown this week. His big beef, or the beef that was laid at his doorstep, the expensive beef from Canada apparently, is that Thomas Massie voted for a continuing resolution under Joe Biden that increased spending. Oh, wow. Well, then that means that Thomas Massie is a big hypocrite, and he doesn't mind hamstringing Republicans, but he'll willingly vote for a bill that raises spending when it comes from the Democrats. Not so fast. You didn't say the magic word. You didn't say the magic word. You didn't say the magic word. Because Thomas Massie actually didn't vote for the continuing resolution that became law. He voted for an earlier version of that continuing resolution that didn't contain spending increases. It actually contained spending cuts, and that's what he's committed to vote for. And, you know, I got to give it up to him. You know, does it make sense? It doesn't make a lot of sense, especially when you heard that clip from Chuck Schumer, Democrat Senate Minority Leader, talking about cutting the waste, fraud, and abuse from our Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security. We don't want America to go bankrupt. Let's hear what Elon Musk has to say about it in contrast to what Chuck Schumer had said as little as 15 years ago, maybe 12 years ago when Barack Obama, Barry was in office. How many years ago was it, guys? Count the numbers.
The waste report in entitlement spending, you know, which is which is most of the federal spending is entitlements. That's like the big one to eliminate. Because that's the sort of $500 billion, maybe $700 billion a year. That is also a mechanism by which the Democrats attract and retain illegal immigrants by essentially paying them to come here and then turning them into voters.
Yes.
So this is why the Democrats are so
Elon is
upset
like
about,
so right-wing coded these days, man.
the situation, because they're losing. You know, if we turn off this gigantic money magnet for illegal immigrants, then they will leave, and they will lose voters.
Okay, so what is he talking about here? So, I mean, the White House insists that the cuts to Social Security and Medicare won't affect benefits. They're talking, I mean, Elon Musk is talking about entitlements. It sounded, I mean, if you listen to that out of context, it sounded as if he might be coming at entitlement spending itself, which, of course, I think is a good idea. But, of course, the Democrats pooped their pants. And so now the White House is scrambling this morning to say, you know, there's not going to be cuts to Social Security or Medicaid. It won't, or Medicare. It won't affect benefits, right? They're basically here. I'm sorry, 2010. So 15 years ago. So here's Chuck Schumer in 2010 saying this.
If we're going to eliminate the waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicare, it does mean we're going to cut some of that out. And when I hear my friend Dave Camp say, you cannot cut money out of Medicare, well, we don't want to cut the good stuff that you point out. 1/3 of Medicare doesn't go to patient care.
Right.
You can't just get up there and say, we don't want to cut anything out of Medicare. We want to cut the bad stuff and keep the good stuff. If we're going...
Thank you, Chuck Schumer, Chucky boy. There we go. So the White House officials said yesterday that they were just talking about waste and fraud in the entitlement programs after Elon Musk had said that they may seek to slash the program's funding. So Elon, whoops, just careful, Elon. Don't get him in trouble. But some prices have been coming down, at least according to some indexes.
These problems. I had no inflation. I had a great economy. He gave you high prices. You couldn't buy bacon. You couldn't buy anything. And also, I inherited a situation with eggs. The price of eggs was through the roof. Well, now the price of eggs has come down a lot. Interest rates have come down. Gasoline prices have come down. It's all coming down. It's all a beautiful thing. I can do it the right way or the wrong way. We're doing it the right way. And I have tremendous confidence in this country and the people of this country, tremendous confidence, much more so than if I sat back for 4 years and had a good time in the Oval Office.
Yeah, that is, he's absolutely right. I mean, and we have seen the price of eggs come down, but of course we're seeing other prices going up. And once certain other prices go up, then they affect other prices that go up. See, a lot of people just don't quite understand how the economy works. I see Andy Opperman over the chat. Give him a little econ lesson as a slag operator. He says that companies anticipate, because JJ was talking about, don't blame the tariffs just yet. No, you got to understand that a lot of companies, when the corporations, when they get spooked, they start slashing and hacking and raising prices all over the place. I've seen it all the time. I've worked in retail, even the media institutions that I've worked for. As soon as there is a sign of economic trouble, they immediately, what do? They start laying people off. They raise prices for everything else, and they do that in anticipation. And so many of the crises that we thought were coming weren't actually crises, but that's just how the bosses do. You can't think that everybody's just going to rationally just say, okay, well, let's just hunker down and wait for prices to change and all that. I voted for lower inflation. I didn't vote for a recession, okay? I voted for Elon Musk and Doge, and I voted for lower prices. And I think most Americans who voted for Donald Trump did too. Like, not everybody's ideologues are buying into the whole concept of going back to a 19th century economic scheme. Not everybody's bought into that. A lot of the Americans who voted for Donald Trump, they voted specifically for lower prices. Now, do we want to see lower prices in eggs and gasoline? Absolutely. And will the price of gasoline affect everything else? Absolutely. Do I see people just knee-jerk reaction, like just reflexively defending everything President Trump does? And like, if you're not a paid member of the administration, if you're not, a relative of the family or something like that, you don't have to defend everything that the president does. Not everything that he does is genius. Not every idea is genius. Gaza, might be genius, might not be the kind of thing that we would do. Maybe we don't want Americans policing Gaza, right? Maybe we don't want Americans taking care of that strip of land. I've heard, there are plenty of neoconservative friends of mine who say, honestly, they think that Trump should take over Gaza, and that's a brilliant idea. But I'm not quite sold on it, right? So let's call balls and strikes. Let's say, take a look at the industries and look at the facts and be willing to change our minds. Let's not dig in and say it is absolutely for sure this. It's not an opinion, it's fact. Okay, well, let's compare our facts. And if your opinion is a fact and mine is just an opinion and not based in any facts, then I will change my mind. How does that sound? It stings. Ouch. Being wrong. But I've been wrong before. Plenty of people have. And I say my mea culpa and I move on. What are your thoughts? You can send us a text, 573-319-1586. That's the text line. And you can text me anytime, night or day, at 573-319-1586. The text lines are always open, and you send them in. Oh my gosh, somebody got their Freedom Arcade Gun Wizard mug. Oh my goodness. What a handsome dude last night. Somebody sent me the picture of a handsome dude who sent me his wizard AR-15 wizard, the gun wizard. His name is Rifle Mage McBoomstick, which I think is a great name. Stephanie likes it. And last night we had a great time playing games on the Freedom Arcade. Did any of you guys get to tune in last night? Man, I was there. Steffi was there. We had a lot of fun. Another listener texted in and said that was fun. They also had a great time. Somebody else is texting me Twitter links, and they said the panic over markets is the most effective anti-Trump psyop so far. They said, we're ripping off the Band-Aid of 4 years of fake job numbers, overspending, and borrowing against our future. The markets need to adjust, stay calm. I'm sorry, but I don't listen. The hotter the female is, if they're an e-girl, the less I trust their economic opinions. It's just facts. I don't need to have the problems that Americans are facing, which I'm sworn to defend. I don't need to have them papered over by bimbos, okay? Like, every time the media or somebody shoves some girl with with a body in my face, it's supposed to distract. The big old socialist titties are meant to hypnotize and enslave my ass. I'm not falling for it. The hotter the e-girl, the dumber the opinion. No offense. I'm sure Erin Wexler is a lovely lady. And sometimes I see some of her content and I'm like, that's pretty good. But, women and political opinions.
No, God! No, God, please, no!
Misogynist. Just kidding, ladies. God. Or am I? Welcome to the Wake Up America Show. I'm Austin Peterson. Click that like. Click that like button. I know it is a Wednesday, but we're going to get through it. It's hump day. Let's have a little hump. Join the Wake Up America Show every Monday through Friday, though. The show is 5 days a week, 2 hours in the morning, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. We'd love to have you be a regular guest on the Wake Up America Show. So click that follow button and come back and join us. And if you find yourself disagreeing with me on these economic matters and you stick around, you know what? Here's a special shout out to those who can hear things that they disagree with and not dissolve into a gibbering mess. I have to say, I have a lot of respect for people like that. Gavin Newsom, no, but he's earning respect from a lot of conservatives with his latest podcast strategy, inviting conservative figures to come on to Gavin Newsom's political news podcast. Some people are saying it's a brilliant idea. Some people are saying this is the real psyop to get people to like Gavin Newsom. Is his rehabilitation strategy working? Here he is sitting down with Michael Savage to talk about California state taxes. Take a listen.
Gavin, I pay 16% in state taxes.
You need a better accountant because it's 13.3%.
But there's a millionaire's tax on top of it.
Well,
and I'm 83 years old and I still work.
Right.
Okay, I have another home in Florida.
Yeah.
I don't live there.
Right.
I prefer where I live. I've gotten used to the fog, to the seagulls, to the cormorants. I know all the birds of the bay. I'm an avid boater. But there's a point at which I will leave this state, and that will be taxation without representation. I could go to Florida and pay no state tax.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the reality is we have the highest tax rate, but not the highest taxes in America.
Who has a higher state tax?
Tax rate. Florida, they tax their low-wage workers more than we tax our high-wage workers.
Gavin, I shouldn't be punished for succeeding.
But I think it's important, just in California, the vast majority of middle-class taxpayers pay less than they do in California, middle class, than they do in states like Texas.
Well,
it's a question of who you're for. We have the highest.
How much? Again, to what level do they pay low?
Average to slightly above average taxed state.
Well,
it's the 1%. And by the way, we haven't raised your taxes, the 1%, since 2011, and it wasn't, by the way, I wasn't governor, wasn't lieutenant governor, or I just became lieutenant governor, but it was the voters of California that did that. But I don't disagree with you.
Poor people always vote for taxation on the rich. That's what Karl Marx taught them to do. So the thing is,
by the way, I'm not advocating for increasing taxes. Haven't done it as governor of the state of California. No income tax increases under my governorship. I've opposed them. In fact, did $5 million of ads to stop Proposition 30, which was a tax increase run by corporations in the Bay Area that had their own special tax increase, where I did ads to oppose it and opposed the wealth tax in California. So we're trying to keep you here.
What is with this politician thumb thing? You know, whenever a politician is going on a rant, you know you're getting screwed. You know what this is the symbol for? Whenever a politician is talking like this is the symbol for I'm sticking it right up your bum. You know, like 407 years ago. Have you noticed this, where they stick their thumb in the air? It's like they're doing the thumbs up symbol, and they're really sticking it to you. They're really showing you what it's all about. Let me just tell you how it's going to be, and then it's got the thumb up. It's like, don't know where are you going to put that thumb, Governor? I know exactly where to put that thumb.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Good morning, Rise and Freedom. Nice to see all of you pineapples today.
Good morning, pineapple. Looking very good, very nice. Good morning, pineapple. Looking very good, very nice.
Interesting. Anna Kasparian from the Young Turks, she's weighed in on Governor Gavin Newsom's podcast turn. And it's interesting to see Anna as she slowly starts to become right wing, not necessarily because she's moving to the right, but because she's standing still, which means that she will eventually, as the left continues their leftward lurch, become right wing. I guess I'm here for it. The only problem is that with so many leftists and Democrats who have come over and joined the Republican Party and join the MAGA coalition, is that we have to deal with this tariff bullshit, is that we have to deal with people who attack Thomas Massey for standing against the spending in Congress. We have to deal with people who are like, don't attack our Medicare and Medicaid. We have to deal with all these people who are statists for bigger government. And, you know, conservatives are not really even a part of the Republican coalition to a large part. I mean, only in the sense, not in a controlling sense. Conservatives are not in control of the Republican Party at this point, and everybody knows it. I mean, you could argue that how long has it been since we've had a conservative in there, but as perhaps we don't want to argue semantics right here on the Wake Up America show. But I'd love to hear your thoughts about what Anna Kasparian is saying right here. She's not giving in to Newsom's charm. She says, my problem isn't that Newsom is having conversations with people on the right. She says, I don't give a crap about that. She says, I think it's a good thing. You just have a better grasp on reality when you get out of your bubble. Okay, nothing to disagree with there with Anna. Then she says, I hate Newsom because the state I was born and raised in, the state I love, has been poorly run under his leadership, and a lot of people have suffered and even died as a result. So while everyone on the left cries about that scumbag having naughty conversations, I'd like them to take a moment to acknowledge the rapidly declining material conditions people have been dealing with in the state. Yeah, I like that much better because she's probably not a millionaire. I mean, maybe she's got $1 million, I'm not sure, but I don't think of Anna Kasparian as like a big Richie Rich. Could be. I have no idea. But I'll say this. Listening to Michael Savage talking to Gavin Newsom about the millionaire's tax and, all of his boating and all of the expensive, things that he gets to do with his money, complain about his millionaire's tax. Not that I think that there should be a millionaire's tax and we shouldn't tax the rich, we shouldn't tax the poor, but it's a little bit, it's hard to empathize with Mr. Savage, as conservative and libertarian as I might be. It's harder, of course, to sympathize or empathize with the millionaire complaining about his taxes, even though I know everything does trickle down, despite what the left believes. But it's much easier to empathize with people like Anna Kasparian because she's probably not a millionaire. And if you don't know her story, I mean, one of the most hardcore leftist shows in existence, The Young Turks, she's on it. Her and I debated actually at a college like 15 years ago. And it was like a liberal versus libertarian versus conservative debate. I was the liberal. No, just kidding. No, Anna goes in there and says, or is Anna, Anna, I hate it when people are like, split hairs over that stuff. I get it, it's your name, but still, it's annoying. Anna Kasparian, she was physically assaulted. She lives in California, and one day she came home and she said that she was physically assaulted by a homeless man, and then when she spoke out about it and how dangerous the situation can be for a young woman walking around alone outdoors in California, she's talking about crime and punishment here. And that got her branded a racist. As a matter of fact, it's funny because I'm reading the comments over there on X responding to her. This is how the left treats her. They said, what's your point besides just virtual signaling to right-wingers? You act like he's always been some kind of beloved figure on the left. Well, Anna responds, she says, my point is that the left needs to remember the only reason people voted for them and it is the opposite of what Newsom represents. What's your point? Besides declaring you'll support anyone who's a Democrat, regardless of the record. Thank you, Anna. Just like me, I don't support the tariffs on Trump. Try to keep it real. Try to keep it honest. Island Joe says, you voted for Newsom, and now you are complaining. She says, I can proudly say I never once voted for him. Honestly, I'm surprised. Good for you, Anna. Anna, Nicole, you're so outrageous. Tasha the Tomboy King, being a tomboy. The right will never accept you. This one really got me. The right will never accept you, and now the left despises you. Where do you go from here? Oh, no. Anna Kasparian. And it's all just full of right-wingers who are like, yeah, join the MAGA coalition. Why not? We got tariff supporters. We got measles lovers. I'm just kidding. I have people. Don't flame me, bro. And you got Thomas Massey, who endorsed Donald Trump, and I'm glad that he did because it makes it a little bit easier to defend him from all of the king's horses and all of the king's men who won't be able to put our economy back together again. Sorry. Can't do it with big government. You can't centrally plan this shit. You gotta leave us alone. Get out of our hair. The Chinese are putting tariffs on us. That means it's more expensive. Oh, they're cutting their nuts off. I should cut off my nuts too. All my homies hate taxes. I voted for no upward pressure on prices from the incoming administration. I want no upward pressure on the prices. Can I get an amen? Let me wave my magic wand and make the economy all that better. Click that like button, guys. We're so grateful to have people in here who are true friends of liberty. CJ824 says, so many MAGA unfollowed me due to Massey. Happened to me too. It's a shame. It's a sad thing. They disrespect the godmother, CJ. They come to us, and they'll come to us on the day of their wedding. And they will ask us for a loan so that they could buy avocados. And I will not listen to them. I will not grant them any of my Founding Flavors coffee money. I will hoard it, keep it all to myself, raise the prices on my customers. I mean, where do you think coffee comes from? People are like, oh, I gotta drink coffee. A very patriotic beverage. Remember, they threw the tea in the harbor, right? And we're all drinking coffee here. They're like, oh, well, we're gonna get your American coffee. Where is it made in America? Here we go. You got 5 seconds to answer. Where is coffee made in America? It's in one place. You just let me know. Guess what? It's Kona beans from Hawaii. Was that 5 seconds or did I screw up? Kona beans from Hawaii. Don't want to have a big dead space in the show. Kona beans from Hawaii, and they're not that great. You know where the best beans come from? Colombia. And they come from Colombia, and they come from Peru, and they come from lots of other places. But I've never been a big fan of Hawaii coffee beans. What about you? Where do you guys get your coffee? Do you get it from forlibertyshop.com? It's imported. Go to forlibertyshop.com. Get yourself some delicious coffee. Thankfully, my suppliers have said they're not raising prices on us just yet. But I honestly, I am bracing myself for the possibility. So hopefully I don't have to raise prices. I don't want to raise prices on people. Raising prices sucks. But I got to do it if I got to feed the baby. Speaking of the baby, reasons to live. Can we get a cute baby picture in the Wake Up America show? Is this legal? Can I show the cute little baby here? Reasons to live. So she's got my face, as you can see, like that round face. Look at them cheeks. Look at this panam. And then she's got her mother's beautiful red hair. Isn't she beautiful? There we go. Yeah. The Wake Up America shows little baby, sweet baby Hazel. We love having little baby Hazel with us sometimes on Freedom Family Friday, so make sure that you come back and join us. If you missed the show last night, come back and join us for Freedom Family Friday when I bring on my sweetheart, smoking hot, redheaded libertarian wife, Steffi P for Liberty, on the show. And we all have a lot of fun, and we talk about the news, and we sometimes gossip and just joke around. So make sure that you click the like button, and if today's your first time watching the Wake Up America show, click the follow button. I know you probably won't, because new people watching today's show are going to be a little off-put by the fact that it's not super rah-rah, the administration, but I have a feeling that if you are new to the Wake Up America show today, and you can take some of the this is not what you're going to hear on Fox News. It's still right wing, but it's not what you're going to hear on Fox News. And yes, we're very much in support of Trump and Elon and Doge, but we are still somewhat criticizing the administration for certain things. And again, is it okay? I think it's okay. So if you're the type of person who isn't offended by things like that, if you're not a political NPC necessarily, and you're hanging around with us still this morning, click the follow, because there are days when it's all red meat all the way. And I think you guys will absolutely love the show. So click the follow button. And listen, even some Fox News guys, Peter Doocy, for example, they ask tough questions, which I think there's some interesting questions. Take a listen to Peter Doocy asking a question of White House Press Secretary Carolyn Leavitt.
He said that the Dow dropping is a period of transition. You're sure nobody here at the White House shorted the Dow?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
You're sure nobody? So he's asking if anybody at the White House shorted the Dow, meaning, if they knew that their behavior was going to tank the stock market and they're shorting the Dow, that would be a serious problem.
But is there any concern here that it's going to be harder to ask certain federal workers to retire if they look at their retirement accounts and they're getting dropped every day.
Well, I'm glad you brought up workers.
So he's
because
talking about the federal workers. Might be harder to get some of these federal workers to retire if many of their retirement accounts have been tanking.
I think who President Trump is looking out for with his America First trade policy and his America First economic agenda. And if you look at, there's great indication to be optimistic about where the economy stands. And the American people, investors, CEOs, small business owners, but most importantly workers, should bet on President Trump because his tariff policies, what he envisions is reciprocity, fair trade practices where American workers are put first and are no longer ripped off by foreign countries all over this world.
Yeah, you know, see, I think that this kind of stuff, this would have hit a lot. I think that this would not be so, it wouldn't be so ringing on the ear if we had been set up for this. So Camelia made a good point yesterday. She was talking about Javier Milei. He prepared everybody during his campaign for an economic shock that was going to occur. But it's just not the messaging that we got initially. And we have to win the midterms next time. I mean, if we can't even cut spending when we have the so-called, the majority and the so-called mandate, and we can't cut spending in Congress under this mandate, I don't know that it's going to necessarily get any better. I mean, Trump's the most powerful in the first 6 months in office. So I don't know if the recession play right away was the right way to go, especially not when it's all just based around tariffs. I mean, if there was a recession fear that was based on something else like inflation and he just couldn't do anything about it. But I mean, they actually cut spending, we could reduce inflation. And a lot of what's happening with the stock market, again, based on sentiment and on people's future investments, are saying to themselves, how much should I be buying in the future? Well, frankly, we probably all should be buying for the future. We probably all need to be stocking up because remember in COVID-19 during the panic, who were the group of people that were the most prepared for COVID-19, the people who had been calling it, the people who had been saying, oh, this kind of stuff's going to happen. Who were the people that really won the pandemic? Do you remember? It was preppers. Yes, preppers were the ones who won the pandemic. You can almost never go wrong by being a prepper, by staying ahead of future trends. This is what business owners are doing right now. They're prepping. When you see them pulling back and you see them laying off staff, and you see them paring back on investments, that's prepping, right? So you should be doing your own prepping as well. I don't think anybody would disagree with that. So stock up on some boxes of our Founding Flavors coffee at 4libertyshop.com. The number 4libertyshop.com. Dad Bod Baboon says stocks going down, buy. Well, it's easy to say, but what are you supposed to buy the stocks with if you don't have any money? Now, I think people voted for Donald Trump because of his economic agenda, which was promising maybe a little bit of a magical unicorn. But the Democrats, they have narrowed down why they think people voted for Donald Trump. Do you want to hear what the Democrats think people voted for Donald Trump for? My vote is the economy. And then here's what the Democrats think people voted for Donald Trump for.
I think there's a feeling in the country. I mean, I often say this, we're about to turn 250 years old, right? We're still pretty young for a country. These are our, like our angry teenage years, right? We are going through this push and pull where we're happy, we're sad, we want this, we want that. And what do you do when you have a teenager who's threatening themselves and others? You just try to get them through this period alive so that their brain can fully form and you can come back to kind of what
Are
a
you
country.
talking about Trump?
No, I'm talking about our country. We're pendulum swinging. We're pendulum swinging. And so for me, I think I don't think there's a single American who feels like this is normal.
So there's not a single American that feels like this is normal. Honestly, for me, it's snafu to me. It's always a snafu. So you remember, like, my expectations for the Trump administration wasn't like 100% everything was going to be perfect. I knew that there were going to be problems, but I mean, are you like angry teenage years? Our brains haven't fully formed yet. That's why people voted for Donald Trump. No, bitch, it's the economy, stupid. It's the economy. It's a snafu. To me, it's a snafu. Does everybody know what a snafu is? Situation normal, all effed up. Thank you, John Rail. Click on the like and follow buttons, become a member. Appreciate that. Don't forget to donate those Rumble Rants, just like John Rail. Would be very grateful to have you support the Wake Up America show with your kind custom. We'd be glad to have you be a regular guest on the Wake Up America show by clicking the follow button, and you can text the show at 573-319-1586. Text lines again are open at 573-319-1586. Our buddy went and bought some more Jeffersonian Java over at forlibertyshop.com. It is good. The light roast, good buzzy caffeine, nice sweet flavor. You can get the Jeffersonian Java, which is the #1 seller on the shop, actually. And we sell a lot of Gulf of America beach towels, but nothing beats Founding Flavors coffee. The Jeffersonian Java and the Madisonian Mornings, these are both our light roasts, absolutely delicious. You can get these exclusively at forlibertyshop.com, the number 4libertyshop.com. You can see it's a beautiful box that you can have sitting on your desk and spark up a conversation, right? You'll enjoy delicious coffee. If you bring this into the office, people are really going to love you for it. My favorite of all of them, and I do love the light roast just because the caffeine buzz, drug addict, but the Founding Flavors coffee, Thomas's Painkiller, that is that Colombian single origin, which is just, I think it's spectacular. So if you're a coffee lover, then Founding Flavors coffee is for you. Check the reviews. People love it. Have we gotten a bad review on Founding Flavors coffee? Yes. We've had one person who said that they didn't like it, but everybody else has given us outstanding reviews. We have people who buy monthly subscriptions to our coffee. Some people send it off to their family members, but it's a great way to support the cause. Have a beautiful box of our founding fathers' visages. Thomas Paine is an unofficial founding father. He didn't sign the Declaration, and that's what counts, or the Constitution, that counts too. So the Founding Fathers, Founding Flavors coffee is available at forlibertyshop.com. I hope you guys are going to join me and Stephanie in Mount Vernon. I know many of you are. And I can't wait, too, because once the Washington, D.C. trip is over, we get to plan the next trip. And the next trip we're planning is to Argentina. I hope we can make it work, because it would be fun. The next one after D.C. So D.C. is kind of like, meet us at these places. It's not planned for you. We don't have, like, transportation for people kind of thing. It's very bare bones. But it's also... the next one is going to be like more of a like planned trip where like things are included and stuff. Drew Van Runkle's wife, he's trying to get her to go, but she apparently was like, "You're just paying Austin for 3 days to be your friend." So? No. You're paying for me for my knowledge, my intimate knowledge of the place that I used to live, and get you access to my congressman's office, potentially meet Congressman Dr. Bob Onder, get a backstage Capitol tour, hang out with a bunch of other awesome freedom fighters who are all going to be there together, and once in a lifetime opportunity, because we'll probably never do something like this again in DC. Lots of surprises. We're going to have a blast. It's Revolutionary War weekend. So you're not just paying for me. I mean, if you want to go and not hang out with this, I recommend that you go, just because Mount Vernon that weekend, George Washington's house, it's Revolutionary War weekend. They're doing reenactments. So, I mean... So if you don't want to pay me and Stephanie and Hazel and, put a few diapers on our baby's butt, you could just go and then and have a good time and enjoy Washington, D.C. But don't be that guy who like hangs out 15 feet away, like listening to everything we're saying and like pretending you're not with the group and acting like a secret super agent or something, super secret agent. And not paying the fee to hang out with me for my exclusive private tour, which is more than just paying me to be your friend for 3 days, okay? That's mean. Where can you find the details about the trip? It's at forlibertyshop.com on the front page. That's the number 4libertyshop.com. I wish Mighty Megatron would be there. I wish Floby Tenderson would be there so he could call me out my bullshit. Luke Sacker, I hope that you can be there. Quest Fanning will be there. And John Rail, I don't know, but I hope you go. So check out the APDC Liberty Tour. Tickets on sale now, and the buy one, get one ticket sale is going away soon. But of course, monthly subscribers get that 20% discount no matter what. It's at forlibertyshop.com. We're going to speak to Judge Napolitano this morning. It is big brain time here in about 15 minutes about Donald Trump potentially bringing an end to the war in Ukraine after news reports yesterday that Ukraine had agreed to a potential ceasefire. Take a listen.
I'd like to see, I know we have a big meeting with Russia tomorrow, and some great conversations hopefully will ensue. The people have done a great job. Marco Rubio's been great. Steve Witkoff's been great. Michael Waltz. They've all, every one of them, they've really stepped up. They are into it. They want to see two things. By far, number one is death of people that aren't citizens of our country, but they're people, just like you. They're people, and we want to stop. And we also don't want to give billions and hundreds of billions of dollars away. We're in there for $350 billion, and there was no reason this war would have never happened if I was president. So it's a very sad thing. Thank you all very much.
All right, well, there you go. This is National Security Advisor Mike Waltz on the same subject.
Just think about it. We've gone from if the war is going to end to now how the war is going to end, and this was an important first step, and that was under President Trump's leadership. He has literally moved the entire global conversation to where we had a very senior Ukrainian delegation with us today. We've had engagements with our Russian counterparts, and now it's how the war is going to end. And that's under President Trump's leadership.
Honestly, I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. I'm loving hearing it. And, I don't know how much more to say about it until Judge Napolitano joins us live in 15 minutes, coming back from Moscow's Red Square, where he did some major interviews of Russian leaders on his Judging Freedom podcast. So we'll be able to get his take on this and more. Judge Napolitano, fresh from Moscow, joining us live 14 minutes from now. So make sure that you stick around if you have tasks that you need to do. You don't want to miss the second hour, so it might be a good idea to do them now. But real quick before you leave, to get that stuff done before the second hour and our guests, let me remind you that John Dennis from the Republican Liberty Caucus will be joining us at 8:30 a.m. And he's going to give the Senate report card to talk about who's liberty, who's not. You don't want to miss that. John Dennis, he is joining us. He's the chair of the Republican Liberty Caucus. He's joining us this morning at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. Is your senator on the nice list or the naughty list? We'll talk about that. And if you have a question or you want to send us a text and say who your senator is so that we can compare them on the list to see how they fare on a liberty score, then make sure that you send us a text at 573-319-1586. Again, you can text the show, let me know who is your senator and say, how do they score on the Liberty score list? I'll check your text messages. We'll talk to John Dennis at 8:30. So the second hour of the show is going to be fantastic. You don't want to miss a minute of it. If you got to do errands, then you got to do them now. You got 13 minutes or so until the judge comes up, and we're going to get his take, fresh from Moscow, talking with Russian leaders about the conflict in Ukraine, and I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. So make sure that you're keeping in touch with us on our text lines. Make sure that you're clicking like, dropping comments, supporting the Wake Up America show. We are a small family business. This is not some podcast. This is not some, podcast put together by, industry plants to support Mark Cuban's newest food craze product that he wants everybody to buy. This is a real small homegrown business. We work in a closet. We have one full-time employee, and we got mo bills, mo problems, and hopefully we got to get a little mo cash. So drop some Rumble rants for the Peterson family. Rick Allen is giving me some congressmen, or saying someone's texting me their congressman. So it's U.S. senators, just FYI. I think that's JJ texting me because he sent me the transactional gold question. And he said, thank you for doing that, by the way. JJ, if you want me to give your senator's score, give me your federal senator And I will check on your senator. Is Rick Allen your senator, GA, Georgia? Let me know who the two senators are from Georgia, and I'll run them up on the check at 8:30 a.m. Central Time. So we're glad to have 164 people joining us over on Rumble.com today. Wild, man. Make sure you guys are clicking that like button. It helps support the channel, and it's totally free. But if you want to drop those Rumble rants, I won't mind. I'll feed it to my baby, and I'll pay my employee. Why don't we do it? Let's build a Liberty Network. It's called For Liberty Network at forlibertynetwork.com. It's me. It's Daniela Pensack on Culturama. It's Brian Piotr and the king of all libertarians on Liberty Tonight. And it's me and Stephanie on the Freedom Arcade Tuesday nights. 4 shows, 4 live shows. It's working, but only because of the support of people like you. So drop those Rumble rants, guys. We keep you informed. We keep you entertained. We sometimes keep you, I don't know, on the edge of your seat. And watching Democrats try and cook Carolyn Leverett in the White House will always be entertaining. Tired of...
Later this year.
I'm sorry. Have you ever paid a tariff? Because I have. They don't get charged on foreign companies. They get charged on the importers.
And ultimately, when we have fair and balanced trade, which the American people have not seen in decades, as I said at the beginning, revenues will stay here, wages will go up, and our country will be made wealthy again. And I think it's insulting that you are trying to test my knowledge of economics and the decisions that this president has made.
Why is it insulting to be tested or have your economic questions be met? That's literally what he's there for. And if these guys could stop being such flaming liberals when they actually ask, I mean, it wasn't even a good question. It's like, I pay tariffs. Have you ever paid tariffs? I have. Come on, guys.
I want to ask about some comments Elon Musk made yesterday. He said that there is $500 to $700 billion in waste and fraud and entitlement spending. He called it, quote, the big one to eliminate. Earlier this month, he also referred to Social Security as a Ponzi scheme. Should Americans expect changes, big changes, to Social Security and Medicare?
President Trump has been unequivocally clear on this. He is going to protect Social Security and Medicare benefits and Medicaid for hardworking Americans who paid into these entitlement programs and deserve those hard-earned benefits. And unfortunately, the mainstream media has taken Mr. Musk out of context. I saw a Bloomberg headline that our team actually worked on getting updated and fixed because it was so wrong, and it took Mr. Musk out of context. What he was specifically referring to cutting was the waste and the fraud and abuse that does exist in these programs. According to an IG report from the Social Security Administration, there's more than $70 billion of fraud in the Social Security program alone that we know of. And so the president will continue to protect these programs for hardworking Americans, and actually cutting the waste, fraud, and abuse out of these programs will protect it for hardworking Americans.
Yes, cutting the waste, fraud, and abuse, like our boy Chucky Schumer said in 2010.
If we're going to eliminate the waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicare, it does mean we're going to cut some of that out. And when I hear my friend Dave Camp say you cannot cut money out of Medicare, well, we don't want to cut the good stuff that you point out. 1/3 of Medicare doesn't go to patient care. You can't just get up there and say, we don't want to cut anything out of Medicare. We want to cut the bad stuff and keep the good stuff. If we're going to eliminate
cut the bad stuff. Well, thank you, Chuck. Honestly, I'm glad to hear you say that. I'm thankful that we've got Chuck Schumer on our sides, guys. Oh, no, wait. That was 15 years ago. And so the Democrats, no waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicare. No. There's no waste, fraud, or abuse. When it comes to Medicare, we've got about 7 minutes until Judge Napolitano joins us to talk about Ukraine. Fresh from Moscow, this guy right here went and interviewed some Russian leaders on the conflict in Ukraine. So it'll be fascinating to have a conversation with Judge Andrew Napolitano this morning here in about, again, 7 minutes. So make sure that you come back and join us here. We will go to a brief little commercial break so I can get the judge on the show. And we'll be so grateful to have you stick around with us through the judge and John Dennis this morning at 8:30 a.m. with the Senate report card on a Liberty scale. Democrats who are being the subject of the layoffs, many of the federal layoffs in Washington, D.C., Democrats are very traumatized by what's happening to them in the job market now. Take a listen.
When you wake up or when you're on your weekend and you get the fork in the road message, or you get the subsequent 5 bullets, hey, what the hell did you do, you lazy federal worker, this week? How frightening is it that someone on X, the owner of X, speaks to you directly to say...
At least she's not dead naming X and calling it Twitter, you know what I mean? Because that would be the worst crime. I see some people in there saying, why is she wearing a face diaper? Did you just gender her? Are you...
What did you do last week at work? And if you don't answer, I am going to fire you. But even more egregious, the president comes out, the most powerful person in the land, and endorses that message. How do you think that makes federal workers feel? When you wake up or...
How do you think it makes you feel? Who cares? So traumatic to answer an email, says Elon Musk. Guys, it's time. Judge Andrew Napolitano is going to join us live in 5. He's just back from his trip to Moscow, and major news, the conflict in Ukraine might finally be coming to an end. Don't go away. Go to forlibertyshop.com, guys. Do a little shoppy. Buy a little coffee. Support the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. We'll be right back. It's the Wake Up America show, and I'm AP. Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at apforlibertyshop.com.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution.
Good morning. Rise and freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Well, we missed him last week. He's going to be joining us here in just about 1 minute. Judge Andrew Napolitano, fresh from his travels to Moscow behind the Iron Curtain. No, there's no Iron Curtain anymore. Or is there? The United States is now pushing for a 30-day ceasefire amidst shifting policies in the region. The Trump administration is hoping for a ceasefire in Ukraine, and that is a reversal of prior support of sustained military support. Conservatives might welcome the reduced overseas spending, the MAGA coalition, and libertarians could see this as a step away from endless wars. Joining us now, right now, live, is a man fresh from Moscow, Judge Andrew Napolitano, joining us live here for Big Brain Time on our Wednesday segments. He's the host of Judging Freedom. Good morning, Judge.
Good morning, Austin. Thank you for the generous introduction. A pleasure to be with you.
You've had an incredible week, Judge. Just fill us in.
Well, I was invited by Alexander Dugin, Professor Dugin, the renowned philosopher whose daughter was assassinated by Ukrainian intelligence operatives, and who is a very, very close advisor to President Putin. I was invited by Alexander Dugin and by the Russian Foreign Ministry to be one of 3 people to participate in an interview with Sergei Lavrov, which took place on Monday at 11 o'clock in the morning, Moscow time, in which we will air an edited version of it on Judging Freedom at noon Eastern today. It was rather remarkable, almost like an out-of-body experience to be with him. But before I mention what he's like, he's very warm and engaging, and we spoke extensively off air. Moscow is nothing short of bustling, beautiful, clean, welcoming, and upscale. The old area where I stayed across the street from Red Square is simply gorgeous. The financial district looks like Doha or Dubai. It is just filled with gleaming, ultra-modern, not particularly my taste, but modern, weirdly shaped skyscrapers, all of which are illuminated at night and all of which are filled with office workers. The Russian Orthodox Church has risen out of the ashes of the old Soviet Union. It is utterly dominant, completely packed to the gills. The liturgy, they don't call it a mass, they call it a liturgy. During the day as well, during the weekdays as well as on a Sunday, is packed to the gills. It reminded me of the old Latin Mass, the one that Pope Francis has suppressed, and the way people used to regard traditional Christian, in this case Catholic, worship before Vatican II. Shops are open and packed, and you walk through their shopping malls and shopping districts, and it's like being on Fifth Avenue or in a very, very high-end upscale suburb outside of New York or Los Angeles. The view that Americans have, thanks to Joe Biden in large measure and Bill Clinton in large measure, I'll tell you why Clinton in a minute, of Russia today is as if it were still the old Soviet Union of repression and central management of the economy. But the real Russia today is open, free, prosperous, based on low taxes, the highest tax rate, the highest Russian income tax. You don't pay real estate taxes, and you don't pay sales taxes. You just pay one income tax. Highest rate, 10%.
No, could it be, Judge, though, that like the Russian government and Alexander Dugin, I mean, who is, you know, a stated enemy of liberalism in the West, I mean, could it be that they wanted you to see the best of Russia, but it's sort of a not quite Potemkin village, but that, you know, in Moscow, where all of the government money goes, considering that it is a centralized dictatorship, that you would, of course, see the best and the brightest of their country, but, you know, the average salary there is like, for a Russian is like $9,500 or $10,000 a year. I mean, it's a poor country. Moscow is just a very, very wealthy city because that, like Washington D.C., all our money goes to D.C.
I was actually about 150 miles outside of Moscow and got to look at a great deal of the place, but mainly in the area around Moscow. I can't challenge what you just said, but it's nothing like what Americans think it is. It's nothing like the Cold War days. And it is more prosperous than it was before the Biden/Trump sanctions. They have actually prospered. Now, a lot of things don't work. I can't use an American Express card because Amex is prohibited by the U.S. government from operating there. So if I wanted to buy something, I would have to and did bring American cash and trade it in for rubles. It was really pain in the neck. You can't fly directly from New York or from any Western country. I had to fly through Dubai. So instead of a 10-hour flight, JFK to Moscow, it's a 20-hour flight, JFK to Dubai to Moscow. There were very few cities to which you can fly from the U.S. and through which you can fly to get to Moscow. But I was very, very impressed at what I saw in the interview with Lavrov. He's, you know, very well educated, very well prepared. He lived in the same neighborhood that I live in because I live 2 blocks from the UN, and he lived there for 10 years. He either watches Judging Freedom, as he told me he does, or he has somebody watch it for him, but he was able to tell me a number of things that guests on the show had said, and he was warm and engaging. He's probably the foremost diplomat in the world. You can't really compare him to Anthony Blinken or Hillary Clinton or Marco Rubio. In fact, Rubio yesterday, in my view, has made a tremendous blunder by saying we've negotiated a ceasefire. Well, why would the Russians engage in a ceasefire? I even said to him, to Lavrov, off the record, the U.S. is negotiating for a ceasefire. He looked at me and goes, why would we do that? Why would we do that? We have almost succeeded in achieving our goals. So why Rubio would make a statement like that and damage his credibility with his Russian counterpart and further cause the Russians to question the credibility of President Trump. A lot of Trump's credibility issues are self-inflicted, but this one is inflicted by Rubio.
So, you're the person who brought you to Moscow, this Alexander Dugin. He's a fascinating character, and he's dominated conversations on the online right, on social media over the past decade. And it's fascinating here in the United States, we have the MAGA coalition, and many of the, people who want to end the Ukraine war, who are part of the MAGA coalition or big Donald Trump supporters. The reason why they like Alexander Dugin so much is because he is anti-liberal in the sense that he's opposed to individualism and to free markets, for example, which are what you and I are the stated basis of our beliefs. But he's very appealing. This Dugin character is very appealing to conservatives, MAGA conservatives, who very much reject individualism and free markets themselves, like those Rooseveltian Republicans like you and I discussed, because Dugin, and he advocates in favor of a centralized authoritarian empire rooted in the Russian Orthodox Church, as you said, and it's very collectivist. So, I guess what's the appeal, Judge?
What is Dugin's appeal to Russians or Dugin's appeal to Americans?
Dugin's appeal to Americans, or at least libertarians, people who believe in free markets.
Americans is what you just put your finger on. He condemns the LGBTQ community. I'll give you an example. He fasts during Lent, during certain days in Lent. I happened to be there on Ash Wednesday, by drinking nothing but water during the day, but he sat next to me at dinner. I said, I hope I am not intensifying your fast by eating in front of you. And he said, no, not at all. In fact, we have a rule. If you blame your discomfort on the person near you who is eating while you're fasting, then you lose all the good that comes from fasting. So he is, with respect to traditional Christian beliefs, what you and I have referred to as pre-Vatican II Roman Catholicism. He profoundly manifests that. And in that respect, he gave me a book, which he autographed to me. And who's on the front cover of the book? It hasn't even been published yet. It comes out in another month. Donald Trump. He profoundly endorses the sort of part of the MAGA group that you and I reject, this right-wing ism that if you're gay or if you're trans or if you don't believe in traditional Christianity, you're no part of it. He endorses all that. So I am not surprised. I didn't know he was as popular amongst right-wingers in America as he is. And now I can see why.
Oh, for sure. I
interviewed him for about 45 minutes, no holds barred. The interview with Foreign Minister Lavrov, I wouldn't say it was scripted, but they wanted to know ahead of time what we were going to ask. And his answers are 20 minutes long. I even said to him off the record, why do you talk so long? And he goes, it's the way we are. Your friend Carlson, the first question to President Putin, provoked a 45-minute answer, if you remember that.
Yes.
But the interview with Dugin was a conversation like you and I are having now. We could interject with each other. The only thing he didn't want to answer was the following. Many Americans, Professor Dugin, regard you as Vladimir Putin's brain.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true? He looked at me and said, Your Honor, I beg not to have to answer that.
Those Russians, man, they're tricky, Judge. It's fascinating. Yes, I've seen a lot of alt-right figures like those Teddy Roosevelt Republicans who are big fans of Dugin because of his anti-globalist stance and his traditionalist rhetoric. Conservative.
That anti-globalist stance of his is appealing to Trump. The idea that we should stop globalism. They stopped their expansion. We should stop our exceptionalism. And we should enter into a great reset with them. whereby you can fly to Moscow like you'd fly to Miami, whereby you can trade easily. My show, I learned, is extremely popular in Moscow. Extremely popular in Moscow. I can't tell you how many times I was stopped by people who spoke English and people who didn't. But I can't monetize it, thanks to Joe Biden. And thanks to Donald Trump, who has kept these sanctions on. My trip would have been a lot less expensive, a lot smoother, a lot easier if Trump had blown away those sanctions, which haven't hurt the Russians at all. They've only hurt American businesses like American Express. American businesses have lost $330 billion because of the sanctions. The Russians are actually more prosperous. One thing that is not good in Russia is interest rates. You have money in the bank. You know what you earn? 20%. Want to buy a house? Your mortgage will cost you 21%, unless it's a first-time purchase, in which case the mortgage rates are fixed by the government at 6%.
In the 1997 book Foundations of Geopolitics, and now the chat's blowing up talking about Alexander Dugin. They find him a fascinating character. He wrote in his book Foundations of Geopolitics that the strategy to undermine U.S. dominance would be by sowing division in the West through disinformation, supporting extremists, and weakening NATO allies like Ukraine and the Baltics. Do you think that Russia has been successful in that strategy?
I don't know that Russia has engaged in the level of disinformation that has produced the results that it wanted. But the Dugin that I had 2 meals with, interacted with, like you and I were on a trip together. He sat next to me on one of the buses that we took, a small minivan taking us from place to place, is very much in favor of the normalization of relations. He can't wait to give a lecture at Princeton University, for example. And he invited me to lecture at Moscow State. Moscow State is like the Harvard, Princeton University, Chicago wrapped in one. It's the creme de la creme of undergraduate and even graduate academic institutions. It has the best law school, it has the best medical school, it has the best foreign services school, and the most demanding undergraduate curriculum. How many young people do you know, let's say under your age, who can speak Russian in America? Probably none. Ask me how many young people under Austin Peterson's age can speak English in Russia. It's well into the 90%.
Interesting. So it's a fascinating juxtaposition that we have with MAGA Trumpers in the United States who find themselves enamored of Alexander Dugin, and they praise his traditionalist stances, his Catholicism, and they praise his worldview being anti-Western. And then here in the United States, we also have this libertarian movement of which you and I are a part. And we stand for free markets and for free trade and for liberalism in the classical sense, right? So it's difficult for us because, of course, we want the war in Ukraine and Russia to come to an end. But then, we're standing arm in arm with people who, well, as soon as they take over, Judge, it's the classical liberals. They always kill first. So how do we not empower imperialist aggressors who wish to end liberalism and using traditionalist Catholic stances like the ones that you and I have complained about in the past here in the United States? How do we not empower those who believe in centralized imperial power and still bring the conflict in Ukraine to an end whilst not emboldening the enemies of liberty?
I guess by electing somebody like Thomas Massie president of the United States, because Trump.
Yeah.
By the way, Trump threatened Massie yesterday. Did you see that?
Yeah, it's been disgusting, and I've been standing with Thomas Massie against the assault. They're threatening to primary him. But I mean,
every time they primary him, whoever they put up gets about 5% of the vote. Massie told me he's either going to be the junior senator from Kentucky, or he's going to be the governor of Kentucky, or he's going to be in the House of Representatives for as long as he wants. He is immensely popular. Donald Trump is so thin-skinned he can't tolerate 1% Republican out of 218 voting against him because they want to increase the Defense Department budget by $5 billion in the next 6 months. Excuse me. Yeah, $500 billion in the next 6 months. This is outrageous. Outrageous what they're doing.
So then is the argument or the answer to my question that we really are just having to deal with the situation as it is? I mean, Trump is the president, Thomas Massie isn't. And in the short term, if we want to end the conflict with Russia and Ukraine and have a more peaceful world, then our allies are the people who, having a much larger coalition, will destroy us and our libertarian values as soon as they get a chance.
They will. They will. And people like Trump are either dumb like foxes or utterly unreliable. But for them to announce this morning that the Biden pipeline is now open again, the spigot is open, and U.S. intel is back there with satellites telling them where to bomb and kill Russian troops, for Marco Rubio to be saying, oh, the ball's in their camp, we negotiated a ceasefire, when he knows damn well they'll never, ever accept a ceasefire without all their other conditions, which Zelensky and his people can't accept. Where are we going with this? I mean, one day Trump says, let's cut the Defense Department budget in half. The next day he says, let's add $5 billion to it. One day he says, no more arms to Ukraine. The war's got to stop. The next day he says, open up the spigot, send them whatever they need. One day he says, get the CIA and the DIA out of there. The next day he says, send them back. I mean, look at the stock market. One day we're going to charge Canada 250% for its steel. The next day it's down to 25%. This chaos will eventually consume him politically, consume him and undermine him. This is a guy that's been there before.
Yeah, even Newt Gingrich back in the day gave Ron Paul an out when it came to not voting for the spending. Everybody knew that it was a waste of time to approach Ron Paul. And so Newt Gingrich had the Ron Paul rule, which was that the lobbyists didn't even stop by his office. They didn't even try and whip up his vote because they knew he wasn't going to vote for the spending. So I don't understand why MAGA can't offer at least that same courtesy to Thomas Massie, who was our rock during the pandemic. I mean, who was better at protecting our rights during the COVID-19 years? Maybe Senator Rand Paul, reading Anthony Fauci, the Riot Act and hearings, but I can't name many other members of the House of Representatives. So they need to back off Thomas Massie because the administration has 6 months at the height of their popularity to get things right. And it just seems as if this whole, it might be a recession because of not because of the tariffs, but because we're shifting away public spending, government spending to private spending. I don't really buy that, of course, because they're continuing Biden-era levels of spending. The markets are roiling because of the tariffs, because their immediate impact can be felt right away. So it doesn't make much sense considering that moderates, people who aren't Trump supporters, the people who supported Donald Trump in this previous election, but the swing voters judge, they might come back and vote against the Republicans in the midterms because I think most people voted for a strong economy. And at least in the short term, I'm okay with some short-term pain if we actually get spending cuts. But if we're not getting spending cuts, and we're getting higher taxes in the form of tariffs, I think it's a big mistake that we're heading down. Would you agree?
Boy, I could not agree with you more, Austin. Nicely put. So, in one respect, Trump's a lame duck, and he's liberated because he's a lame duck. In another respect, I have to ask myself, did he flunk Economics 101 at Penn?
They just need to read Henry Hazlitt, Economics in one lesson. Skip the pricey school.
God, it's such a masterpiece, and even Trump can read it. It's not very long. When I asked him if he ever read the Constitution, I ever tell you the story?
Yeah, go ahead, but tell it again, Judge.
He said to me, I don't read books. I said, Mr. President, it's not a book. I mean, depending upon the size of the print and the size of the pages, it's maybe 15 or 20 pages long. You have to read it. I got guys like you to tell me what's in there.
No, Judge, no. God. This is the world we live in, Judge. Our prime enemy, the neoconservatives, defeated by Trump. The MAGA coalitions come in. You've got Bobby Kennedy. You've got Tulsi Gabbard. You've got Elon Musk and Doge. So there's so many bright spots in this administration. But I guess it's a sad commentary to suggest that he probably is the most libertarian president we've seen since Calvin Coolidge. But even then, we're falling far short of the ideals of where you and I stand. In the shifting sands beneath us, Judge, the political sands, it's no longer the neocons in power. It's now the Roosevelt Republicans. Where do you think libertarians stand right now, Judge? Like, where is our movement? Talk to me a little bit in the final moments.
We need somebody like Thomas Massie to spread his wings beyond his congressional district in northern Kentucky and the floor of the House of Representatives. I mean, he has many gifts that Ron Paul doesn't have. I mean, his youth and charm and physical attractiveness, he could easily personify that movement again and almost bring us back in larger number and with better organization and a greater opportunity to triumph than those heady days when you and I met and Ron was running for president and attracting large numbers of young people. Massey would do that 2.0 or 3.0. The numbers would be enormous.
Judge,
and the time is
go ahead.
Is right. The time is right for that. I think. I mean, imagine if Massey opposed Vance for the Republican nomination for president in 2028. Wow.
It would be nice to see, and I certainly hope it does. But, Judge, the best place to stay up to date with what's happening in the world of freedom, where you judge freedom itself, is on your own podcast, Judging Freedom, very popular in Moscow, we learned today. Congratulations on all your success, and we're very excited to see some of the edited interviews that are coming out, your discussion with Lavrov, essential viewing for freedom lovers. Judge, any other interviews that you'd like to preview?
Well, the interviews with Professor Dugan have already been posted. The interview with Foreign Minister Lavrov will be posted at noon Eastern today. At 11 this morning, Jeff Sachs, of whom Foreign Minister Lavrov spoke very highly. At 2 this afternoon, Scott Ritter. So all of my heavy hitters weighing in on what could be the new Russia-America relationship.
Interesting. It's not the 1980s anymore. Watch Judging Freedom wherever you get your podcasts and check out his website, judgenap.com. Judge, it was a very big brain discussion today. Thank you for your insight, and we appreciate you standing true north.
Thank you, Weston. Thank you for all the good work you do. God bless you.
Thank you, Judge, and you as well. Thanks for watching the Wake Up America show. If you enjoyed the Judge's conversations, make sure you click the like button and come back and join us 5 days a week here on the Wake Up America show. Be a regular guest because there's benefits, there's perks. There's people going to forlibertyshop.com and making their purchases this morning. I see you, Cecilia. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Wake Up America show. And if you're joining us live right now, I just want to give you a pat on the back and say, thanks, man. And if you're listening to us later on the audio version on iTunes or on Spotify, great. We love to have our friends hanging out with us and listening to us later. But it's great when you join us live, which is 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. How does your senator fare on a Liberty Report card? Which state do you live in? Send us a text with the name of your senator. We're taking a look at the Liberty Report card with John Dennis. When we get back, it's the Wake Up America show, and that's on the For Liberty Network.
you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back. With sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways? Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot red-headed libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist. Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins.
Good morning. Rise and freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show, and that's on the 4 Liberty Network. And there's 4 shows on the 4 Liberty Network. We just keep growing and growing. It's me, the Wake Up America show. You're watching it now. Thank you very much. It's also Culturama, where Marilyn Monroe with a master's degree, we call her, Daniela Pensac, hosts Culturama, where she's taking back tomorrow today. Check her out Tuesday and Thursday nights. Liberty Tonight on Thursdays. And on Tuesday nights, me and Steffi P play some video games with you guys on the Freedom Arcade. It was great to see so many of you guys last night. That's the exclusive members-only content. Last night, things got a little spicy, so make sure you go back and check that stream out if you are a member of the Rumble Premium program, because it is paywalled content. We create that to help Rumble grow. Rumble helps us grow so that we can spread the light of liberty from sea to shining sea. We're in the Midwest, though, so we don't get to see the ocean. My buddy, John Dennis, gets to see the ocean far more than I do. I'm quite jealous. He lives out in beautiful San Francisco. He's the chair of the Republican Liberty Caucus, and he's going to tell you if your senator made the list. The nice list, the naughty list, the Liberty list. John Dennis joins us live right now on the Wake Up America show. It's great to see you again, John.
Thanks for having me. Always good to see you.
John, we brought you on here to talk about the Liberty list, and people are sending me text messages at 573-319-1586 with their senators' names. So here in a few minutes, we're going to go through some of these names, and I'd love to hear the Liberty scores or how they ranked, whether they're pro-Liberty, whether they're, hanging out with Bernie Sanders on the other end, I'm sure. But before we get to that, the big news is that, our boy in the Congress, Thomas Massie, has stayed strong with us, rock rib, liberty loving representative since the Tea Party days. Now he's on the outs with MAGA for not voting against the spending. Is he in the wrong? Are we crazy? Is it us, John, or is it them? How do we square these circles?
Well, in life, you sometimes find people who you like at odds with each other, and that is really true in politics. In fact, it comes up frequently because conflicts is sort of managing conflict, right? So yeah, I think Thomas took a stand against a really powerful MAGA group, but I think the MAGA side is actually a bit surprised at how strong the support is for Thomas in this situation. I fall on the side of Thomas. I think he's 100% right. He's seen the theater before. In fact, he put a video out saying, I've seen this theater before, and they're going to keep kicking the can down the road. And, every second that ticks by, the MAGA folks don't realize that President Trump loses his strength, loses his power. He's at the strongest he will be. And now is the time to address the massive problem facing us, which is the $2 trillion federal deficits every year piling on top of the $36 trillion in federal debt. So Thomas is in the right here. Act now. In fact, Thomas was on the Republican Liberty Caucus X space a month ago and warned that the state was coming up and predicted exactly what would happen.
Yeah, I said that yesterday. I thought that Thomas Massie's support was an IQ test. But, it's also the test of people who are paying attention, because one of the criticisms of Thomas Massie from people on the right was that, he voted for a Biden CR. Well, he voted for a Biden CR that actually cut spending, but they didn't actually pass that CR. They passed a different CR that increased spending. So, he's been true to his word of what he said that he would do. And I even said this to the judge just a few minutes ago, that Newt Gingrich had a Ron Paul rule, which is that, you don't kick Ron Paul for doing what Ron Paul does and what he's always said he's going to do. And I think we need a Thomas Massie rule from this administration. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And it's funny, yesterday, Ron Paul was, out and about on X, supporting Thomas for doing the right thing, doing the Ron Paul thing. And here's the thing. I think, we're having a little tempest in a teapot right now, tempest in a teacup. I think this is going to pass. The truth is that they're on the same side. They just are, having differences at the moment. But the reality is that Donald Trump would do well to help the House have hundreds of Thomas Massies if we could find them. And he should really make Thomas Massie an advisor so he's getting some good guidance on what he should be doing in the House.
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm speaking to John Dennis. He's the chair of the Republican Liberty Caucus. They put out Senate and House report cards. If you remember, he joined us recently to discuss that space with Thomas Massie, discussing what would happen with that fight. And now we're talking about the Senate side of things, the question about where your senators reside in regards to, well, we'll call it Masseyism, right? How close do they get to Thomas Massie? How close do they get to Rand Paul? I've got a couple of names from Ohio. One of our listeners texted in this morning and asked about John Husted and Bernie Moreno from Ohio. They're curious about how the Ohio senators rank on the Liberty score list. Maybe give us a quick little Reader's Digest version of how these scores are ranked, and then how did the Ohio senators do?
Sure, and just so you know, folks can see this index on rlc.org, Republican Liberty Caucus. So it's rlc.org. It's the top post. And you can just click on it and go through the scores and the methodology too, by the way, which is interesting. What we do is we take votes that senators made on various bills, various votes last year, and compare that to how we would have voted against that cross section, and then rank them. We've been doing this for a long time now. We have consistent performers and consistent non-performers. Bernie Moreno just got elected, so he doesn't have a record. He was only sworn in after January, and these are only votes that were taken in 2024. So regarding the Ohio senators, I think you actually don't have. What was the other gentleman's name?
John Husted, Husted.
Yeah, I think he's relatively new. He doesn't actually have a record for 2024 because I know J.D. Vance. He replaced J.D. Vance, if I'm not mistaken, and Moreno replaced Sherrod Brown. So they don't actually have records yet. So we'll give them an incomplete or just not applicable. But we have high hopes for both.
How about Washington State? So one listener texted in this morning at 573-319-1586 and asked, how did the senators from the state of Washington rank? My guess would be not so good, but I haven't seen the Washington ranking yet.
Well, the senators from Washington are Democrats. We only do this for Republicans. I think at one point we looked at doing it for Democrats, and they were, invariably pathetic and had awful scores. So we just don't even bother going through. We're the Republican Liberty Caucus. We're interested in keeping, holding up the standards for the Republican Party. The Democrats have no standards.
Talk to us about the Republicans who are on the naughty list in regards to liberty. Then who are the Republicans that we got to watch, John?
So there are consistent poor performers. I will say that I think as bad as this score sounds, I think we're up a couple of points this year. The average score on the list is 46, which is pretty low. But I got to say it's up. And compared to the House, 2 years ago the House score was 75. Last year, the House average score was 64, and this year, the average House score was 34. So the House really took a beating. The Senate is a little bit up, but you have your usual suspects as the low performers. Susan Collins from Maine scored a whopping 5 on our productivity index.
Jeez.
She was right 5% of the time with her votes. Lisa Murkowski, in a shocking turn of events, scored a 10. Todd Young scored a 10. John Cornyn, 15. Tom Tillis, 15. And the ever-present, evergreen Mitch McConnell also scored a 15.
How about my senators, Missouri senators, Josh Hawley and Eric Schmidt? How did they rank on the Liberty score?
Yeah, so actually Josh Hawley had a nice bump this year. He was down at 70 last year, but did really well. He got 84 this year.
All right.
And, so Josh moving in the right direction. Very happy for him and happy for us and happy for you. Eric Schmidt also was a bit lower last year. I don't exactly recall what his number is. I can look that up. But he is at 82.
I knew
So,
it. Knew it.
So he's been a good guy in the Senate and taken the right issue on the right stance on a number of tricky sort of bills. So really pleased. You should be happy about your contingent from Missouri.
I'm honestly, I'm loving Eric Schmidt because every time I turn around, I see him advocating for a policy that I'm like, this is not exactly the most conservative of policies, but in a good way. It's much more libertarian of policies. I've been really thankful to see that. And, Senator Josh Hawley always kind of raises my eyebrows because it's like, hey, let's cap interest rates with Bernie Sanders. And I'm just kind of like, it just strikes me as a misunderstanding of how money is allocated. Money, like anything else, if you restrict its supply, you're going to increase it. It's just the cost of it. And I think we need to continue to fight the good fight of helping people to understand that central planning doesn't work. And the Republican Liberty Caucus exists to whip up the Republican a majority, now that we have a majority, to whip them up in a more libertarian fashion, John. So it sounds like some people are moving the right direction. I don't know that we'll ever touch, Murkowski or Senator Collins. That's a no-win. But with Rand Paul's amendment to cut spending being rejected in the Senate and Thomas Massie being ripped for voting against the increased spending, and now that we're in the sort of honeymoon phase for the President Trump administration. It's a lame duck, but I mean, do we have hope for the future in a sense? I don't want to be too black-pilled here, John, but if they can't cut spending now, if they won't pass Rand Paul's amendment to cut spending now, when Doge is doing its work, showing all this waste, fraud, and abuse, do we have hope in the future? I mean, how do you feel? I'm asking for your crystal ball. I get it, but what's your take?
Well, if I thought it was futile, I would not be doing this.
Sure. Yeah. Good point. Yes.
Doing something else, I suppose. Sooner or later, we're going to have a big haircut. And I know a guy who does mergers and acquisitions, and he's been through lots of situations where they had companies that weren't doing really well. And he said, when we get to it, they'll just have to take a haircut. Somebody's going to have to take a haircut. That's how it always is. And they'll bitch and moan, and they'll be pains in the necks for a while. But that's ultimately what's going to happen. We could maybe have a softer landing if our politicians got their act together. And that's where I have a little bit of optimism because we think about where we were when you and I started getting involved in politics, Austin, and where the Republican Party was. We were fighting, the Patriot Act and the Iraq War, and look at where we are today. We're the defenders of free speech. We are the anti-war party, and we're the party of the working people, as Rand Paul says. Other people might say the working class. So anyway, I had an interesting conversation with Rand on our X space yesterday. We did a space with the release of this. You can follow us at Our Liberty Caucus on X. And we kind of got into this whole working class and union thing that's coming down the line. We can talk about that maybe another time. But yeah, I'm a little optimistic because people are moving in the right direction, at least in the Senate. I think they'll come around in the House as well.
All right. That's John Dennis from the Republican Liberty Caucus. Keeping the Republican Party pointed in a true north fashion. Now, there's a lot to be optimistic for. Not everything is a black pill, but the biggest red pill to me, John, and I wonder if you agree, is what the Department of Government Efficiency is doing with Doge. That really seems to be, if anything is the bright spot in the administration, it's got to be Elon Musk. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, sure. I mean, and not only is he doing the work that government should be doing in terms of efficiency, but he's doing it and he's marketing it in the right way. Like he's finding the most egregious, assaulting sort of spending and putting it out there and getting people in the mood to for them to pick up their pitchforks and demand spending cuts in Washington. And so he's doing it in the right way. I think he's also realized along the way that a lot of this spending is going to support Democrats. A couple of years, well, 2020 and 2020 in both South Carolina and in Kentucky, relatively safe Republican seats. Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell, Democrats spent $100 million trying to upset them. And I've talked to Rand about this. It tells me that Democrats have money to burn. Well, where's that money coming from? It's not just coming from Soros and other billionaires, although they are a great source for the Democrats. But Elon has the suspicion, and I think he might be right, that a lot of that money is coming out of, is getting sort of run through outfits like USAID and into the Democrat Party. So the Democrats are really scared, and Elon Musk is doing a great service for the country by cutting off that spending and all the people who are really enemies of the country, getting defunded.
John Dennis, you're leading the charge with the Republican Liberty Caucus. People can go to rlc.org, and the House results are up. The Senate also posted on that website. If people want to see the Senate report card, it's available now.
It is available. Yep, they're both up there. And you can also join there, join the RLC. This is a really important work. And in fact, you were saying something about, guiding star. Well, look, we try and be the North Star. I think we're going to actually be a big help to the, to the Trump administration because, we come to the liberty conclusion through philosophical means. Like we're really rooted in the ground. The MAGA scene seems to have come to the libertarian conclusions from a pragmatic point of view, but they've got to kind of follow our lead here. And so the Republican Liberty Caucus is going to be a guiding light, a North Star, if you will, for MAGA, I think, and so this work is really important. So join a chapter. We've got them around the United States. So just sign up on our website and pay your dues and help the RLC.
I've got it pulled up right now. Looks like my dues are in arrears. It's time to get paid up.
How dare you?
Our friends over at Rumble says that they're working on an app or website that will aggregate report cards from watchdogs. Thanks for the inspiration. Absolutely. That's why we're here. So check out that report card at rlc.org. Put that one on your aggregator. John, thanks for doing what you do to spread the ideas of liberty. I hope we can see each other again in person sometime real soon.
Yeah, let's do that. Look forward to it.
Have a good one.
Cheers.
Now recognize the representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ranking Member Keating, also wonderful.
Mr. Chairman, could you repeat your introduction again, please?
Yes, we have set the standard on the floor of the House, and I'm simply...
What is that standard, Mr. Chairman? Would you repeat what you just said when you introduced a duly elected representative from the United States of America? Please.
I will. The representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Mr. Chairman, you are out of order.
Hold on.
I will. The representative from Delaware, Mr. McBride.
Mr. Chairman, you are out of order. Mr. Chairman, have you no decency? I mean, I've come to know you a little bit, but this is not decent.
We will continue this.
You will not continue it with me unless you introduce a duly elected representative the right way.
This hearing is adjourned.
This hearing is adjourned. There we go. You will speak to them with their proper pronouns. You will speak to them by their proper pronouns. Hold on.
Now recognize the representative from Delaware, Mr.
McBride. Oh, how dare you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chairman.
Ranking Member Keating, also wonderful.
Do you think is that the hormones that's why they speak like that, or do you think that there's an affectation on that? Right.
Could you repeat your introduction again, please?
Yes, we have.
We have. Don't back down, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, guys. I'm Austin Peterson. This is the Wake Up America show. I see you guys are doing what if alt history over there in the Rumble chat. What if Austin had won the Senate? Then we wouldn't have had Brad Beckman. We wouldn't have had the Wake Up America show. There wouldn't have been Jefferson City. We wouldn't have had, would Camellia be doing what Camellia is doing? I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know. If in an alternate universe, my loss was your gain, I guess. Somebody had to stand up and do it. If you support the Wake Up America show, please do click that like button. It's totally free, costs nothing. And if you're watching us for the first time today, click the follow button as well, because the show is about over. Yeah, sorry. We go 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time, so it's a 2-hour live stream. You definitely want to catch us live, but if you need to listen to us later, it's still great. You get lots of good information, tons of facts, great interviews. I mean, the conversation that I had with the judge about Alexander Dugin alone, I think, was worth your time. Was it not? I don't think it was. So can you bless me with something?
Can you bless me with something?
Oh, gosh.
Money-wise? Please.
Can you suck it?
Squeeze me? Bless me with something. Bless me with something. Go to forlibertyshop.com and get yourself a delicious box of founding flavors. If you have not tasted the coffee yet, you are missing out. If you're the type of person who's got FOMO, you need to get you, well, FOMO, say no mo FOMO. Get yourself a box of founding flavors coffee. See what everybody's talking about. Taste it. If you hate it, don't give me a 1-star review. Just hit me up. I'll give you your money back. If you don't like it, I will buy it back from you. So you really don't lose anything. You either get a delicious box of coffee that you love, or you get your money back. I will refund anybody who hates their coffee. Send it back to me, and I will give you your money back. There it is. So go to forlibertyshop.com. That's the number, forlibertyshop.com. Thank you to Joni Rankin for that Rumble rant. It is much appreciated, Joni. Sincerely, it is. And we are very grateful. Many people have already visited the forlibertyshop.com. I recommend, as well as the coffee, delicious water, and you can drink it out of your Gulf of America mug. There we go. Eric Camellia says, AP losing changed his life. Probably would not be a baby Hazel Rose. Very true. Very true. I've got a great life. Right? Is this hard to make work financially, this whole podcast merch shop thing? Yes. Is it terrifying? Yes. Do I wake up in the middle of the night sometimes like, oh God, am I going to be able to make payroll? Yes. But them's the breaks. You got to, listen, suffer now or suffer later, right? Maybe one day I will be rich and we'll be able to have this huge shop and we'll have tons of shows on the network and all that stuff. And I'll be like, the fat cats over at the Daily Wire. But, life is pain, life is struggling. Suffer now or suffer later. I'm choosing to suffer now so that I can hopefully not have to suffer later. Maybe I'll suffer now and suffer later. Hopefully not. Just go to forlibertyshop.com to end my suffering. Support Baby Hazel. Support the For Liberty Network. It all goes to a good cause. Your money either goes back into libertarian activism, me showing up to hearings, arguing in favor of getting rid of the income tax, or it goes to support my family here on the Wake Up America show. This is a family-owned business after all, where we love our country, we love America, we love liberty, we love you for hanging out with us this morning. Click the like before you go. We'll see you at the Grift Shop on the way out, and we'll see you tomorrow on the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. Bye, guys. Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP For Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at apforlibertyshop.com.